Hi, can people hear me? We're having some technical issues, but if anyone can hear and can, let's see, someone just say something.
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay, this is good. Sorry. So there's been all sorts of chaos. Let's kick things off, hoping that it works itself out more smoothly. So I'm Paolo. I know many of you. Some of you I know are new to Stammtisch. Normally things work quite well. So thank you to those who have persevered in staying around, even though it's almost 10 minutes past the hour. I just want to, well, let me let you know how these work, these sessions, and then hopefully we can make up for the fact that we had an unauspicious start. So the aim of the Stammtisch are informal discussions that happen between our more formal events, which allow us to talk about any aspect of quantum computing, or in fact any quantum technology, though we tend to end up spending most of the time on quantum computing, that people want to cover. So sometimes that's beginners who want to ask questions that they've struggled to understand online. Sometimes it's experienced individuals who want to share things. Sometimes it's true experts who are giving an update on their work. I believe if he's still with us and hadn't given up waiting, we may well have Brian Lenihan here, who is world renowned as being the first author of a decent business focused quantum computing book. So if Brian's still with us, then I'm really looking forward to his insights and an update on how his book's been selling. So the way we run it is we typically normally do a run round of the just introductions, you know, who you are, why you're on the call, if you're a regular, if it's your first time, if you're after information or looking to share insight. If for some reason you don't want to speak, that's absolutely fine. Please feel free to post in the chat. We're also keen to understand where people are calling in from. One of the few positive aspects of the past 18 months of pandemic has been the ability to have these conversations with an truly international audience. So we love to hear when people are from elsewhere. Then once we've done the intro, we typically pick one or two topics. So I say if Brian is with us, then I'll ask him if he's happy to give an update on his book, but in particular questions that he might have been getting as a result of the presentations he's been doing on his book launch. And then there's a few other topics on mine. So with no further ado, I will start to go round my screen and ask those people who are comfortable to give a quick intro to do so. As I say, if you're not able to, please do give us a brief intro in the chat. So in fact, what I'm going to do, given that you're now on the call, can you talk people round? I will log in so I'm not on my phone and therefore I can see the screen more easily.
Yeah, absolutely. I will start with Manan. I think you are the first one on my screen. Just a quick intro from yourself.
Hello guys, I'm Manan and I'm tuning in from India right now. And I recently graduated a year ago, and currently I'm working at Dell Technologies. So I'm really interested in the quantum space and hoping to make a career in the future in the hardware space. So that's where I'm looking to, get into. And I enjoy these discussions a lot. These things happen, these meetings happen every week, and I really enjoy them. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the introduction. So you might keep an eye on our events because we are planning a panel discussion around how to get a job into quantum. So yeah, keep an eye on that.
Like right now, it's like I'm not looking to, go anywhere apart from Dell because
Thank you, Manan. We'll just can continue with the introductions. Rory, I have you next on screen. Nice to see you again.
Hi, nice to be here. Yeah, Rory McLaren. I'm leading Quantum Initiative at a large German organization, background in technology, and I'm interested in what everybody's experiences are, what the topics are, what the questions are, how we act as advocates for quantum computing, really.
Thank you very much. And Doug, I have you next on my screen. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you, and thank you for the references that you sent to me. I'm a newbie here. I'm a newbie to quantum computing as well. I attended a meeting last week, entangled discussions with which Em and Anahita gave us an overview of this meetup, and I thought it'd be worth joining. Interestingly, I've tried to do some reading about quantum. Interestingly, an academic a resource for academic papers, for which I get thousands of papers for about blockchain. I did a query on quantum computing, and there were 5. So it's obviously extremely new, and a lot of people don't seem to understand it. So I'm here to try and understand quantum computing. I'm an enterprise architect. I've traditionally always tried to understand the latest technologies and how the use cases that they could be, to which they could be applied. Been doing a lot on blockchain. I'm now turning an interest into quantum. 43 years in IT, 25 as an architect.
Good, thank you. Thank you very much for your introduction. I think Ordani, I think you put something in the chat. You attended a BCS talk, Bedford branch, which was fascinating. You would like to learn more. Yeah, welcome. I hope we can help you with that. You want to just say a couple words, or you happy to ask to move on? Okay, no worries. Next one, I have Andrea.
Yes, can you see me?
Yep, welcome.
Hello. I'm Andrea. I'm a student, a master student at Polytechnic of Turin, Italy, in physics of complex systems. I have a bachelor in physical engineering, and actually I'm looking for a master thesis in the quantum computing, or I'm interested in quantum devices, quantum technologies, and quantum computing is the most interesting one, I think, at least what I would like to know better. And in particular, I'm interested in topological quantum computing. So I have some doubt, some curiosity about that, about the future. That's it.
So you now have, you have to explain to us what that means. As soon as we finish with the round of introductions, we'll come with a question.
For the question about
what is topological quantum computing? We are really curious to know
about that.
Yeah,
yeah.
We'll get back to you once we finish the introductions.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Thank you. I think next one we have Jim Walker. Nice to have you here, Jim. If you want to say a couple of words about yourself. Oh, and now I do recognize you. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, I'm actually in a car, but yeah, I'm Jim Walker. I'm a quantum engineer working for Honeywell, Quantum Solutions, and I'm in Boulder, Colorado, and I'm interested to see what you guys are interested in, how you want to use our machines. So.
Good, thank you. Venkata, I have you next on my screen. Do you want to say a couple of words about yourself?
My name is Venkata Madula. I am living in the United States. I am not working in IT, but just doing some part-time job, trying to learn new things and technology updates. I did a course from edX about quantum computing online. I think the university is, I forgot, that's in Netherlands. It's one of the famous universities in Netherlands. They have a couple of courses in quantum computing, and I learned about quantum computing a bit over there. And apart from that, I represent FCA International. FCA International is basically Armed Forces Electronics Communication Association, and we have chapters all over the world. And people can join as individual members, companies can join as corporate members, and students can join as student members. And they have various programs they keep doing, and they have discounts for the members. And I think they do a lot of cyber events. If anybody is interested in joining, they can join. There is little bit fees. Companies who wants to sponsor, they can sponsor. And in fact, I am also looking for some kind of job. So I have to learn more about quantum computing and cryptography, I think, quantum error correction. A lot of things are there. And how cybersecurity is related with quantum, that's I want to learn because it's picking up very fast. And that is the future. So that's all about me.
Yeah, thank you very much. So clearly these are topics we've been touching on in our past events, and also I was mentioning to Manan earlier, we will have one about working in quantum, so maybe keep an eye on our upcoming events. Next one I have Ravindra. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, hi. Nice meeting everybody. Good evening. I'm joining from London. Actually, I'm part of the meetup from the inception from 2017, but I'm not a regular user. I'm not joining in every event, but I'm following up most of the stuff. From the professional side, I have been working as a senior data scientist in various organizations. Recently, I have started a new startup and going through a creative destruction lab accelerator program from next month. Joining here to see how people are thinking from different walks of their life and different journeys in the quantum computing. Thank you.
Anything to do with quantum, your new startup?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm working on a data platform, topological data analysis, which is completely different than topological quantum computing. But we can come back to that later.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I think next one is Amrita. Welcome. You want to say a couple of words about yourself?
Yeah, hi. Amrita this side. Hope you guys are able to hear me.
Yep, perfectly fine.
Yes. Okay, all right. So I am tuning here from India. I work as an engineering manager in United Health Group. Have quite 7+ years of experience working in insurance and finance domain, and work as a full stack developer plus solution architect for a few projects. Quite like 2 years back, I got interested. I mean, it's not like, I got interested into quantum accidentally. It was like a continuous, sort of a reading and learning. And then eventually switching my mind, okay, I need to, do something in here. So the finance and insurance quite helped me out to, relate the nodal points, how I can use the quantum technology into finance and insurance. And that's where my reading, started like 1.5 years back, and have completed like few enterprise trainings in my domain, and working on few use cases from finance and insurance, especially in the claim fraudulent area. If you guys remember, I was there in your last conversation. I asked this questions, how you guys are tackling this problem. So yeah, this is the current problem that I'm kind of working upon. There are few more lineups in quantum computation and quantum information, and also post-quantum cryptography. But these are some of the inline projects. So first, I'm currently concentrating especially on the finance area with claim fraudulent.
Right, thank you very much. Pleasure to have you here. Next one, Powell. Nice to have you here. Do you want to say a couple of words about yourself? No, okay, no worries. Next one then is Kate. Nice to have you.
Hey. Hi, everyone. I'm Kate. I'm a design researcher at IBM. I'm in the US, in the Philadelphia area, if anyone knows where that is. So right now I am working in quantum, and I'm being in user experience. I really want to understand how everyone is using quantum or trying to use quantum. So all the way at the model developer end up to the C-suites, trying to understand how they're interacting with quantum, how they're processing, how this is going to change their company and the industry that they're a part of. So happy to be here. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Fantastic. So did you say you already working in quantum?
I'm on the IBM quantum team, but I am not in the weeds of what's exactly happening. I'm on the business side with the user experience researchers.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. It's getting trickier and trickier to remember who has talked already, who's not. I think Ivan, you have not introduced yourself. If you want, just share a couple of words about yourself with us, the rest of the group. Ivan? No. Okay, no worries. I think we are left with a couple of people. David Pell. Hi.
Right, guys. Yeah, some of you probably gonna remember me from a few months back. I've been attending a bunch of the sessions, but then I had to stop because I was made redundant by Eurostar. And so now I've got my job back. I'm with the BBC as a data engineer. And yeah, so I'm sort of back again to learn. Reason for me wanting to learn is just because I'm a bit bored. Yeah, that's that's about it.
Great,
some of us
thank
pick
you.
easier topics, David, when we're a bit bored. Yeah, kudos to you for going with quantum.
Yeah, no, this is my story, really. That's it.
Thank you. I think we got Pradishnanan. I hope I pronounce it properly. Pranishnanan. You want to come on camera and say, maybe share a couple of words about yourself?
I think you're talking about me.
Yeah. Apologies,
Okay.
my bad pronunciation.
No problem. So I'm a complete beginner. So I'm a graduate student at NC State. I'm a graduate student at NC State right now, and I am a chemical engineer. So I have like a completely material perspective towards quantum computing, and I just want to know the other side, so how things work. So I thought it might help if I attend this meeting.
Thank you. I think we got Brian next. Hey, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too, Em. How are you?
Yeah, it's good. It's been busy, but the summer is finally upon us, so that's
Are
always.
You really in London? It doesn't look like it's raining outside.
No, I'm in Milan actually, so that's why the weather is not too bad.
So I think when Paulo first came on, he asked me to do a bit of an update.
Yeah.
Let's do just the briefest of intros, Brian, and then we can give you a little bit more time once we finish doing the intros. Let's
do that. So my name is Brian Linehan, and I'm a former executive with a major North American bank. I transitioned by going to MIT through an AI specialty, and a number of years ago started to transition into quantum computing, and I've written a number of books about AI and QC. So I'll give you an update a little bit later.
Thank you. Looking forward to that. We got in the chat, Powell actually sent us a quick update in the chat. So it's from Poland, working in DXC technology as programmer, always interested in quantum. So is a way to staying up to date with the state of technology. Thank you, Powell. And we are left with the Quantum London team. So Anna.
Hi everyone, great to see you all. So I'm Anna and I'm one of the leaders at Quantum London. I work in the insurance industry similar to Paolo and Em, and I'm just very interested to meet some people in the quantum industry, build networks and try to see how quantum's going to change the insurance industries and all other industries that we're interested in.
Thank you. Paolo, I'm not sure if you have done your introduction.
No, I sort of did, but not properly, as I was panicking with technology 10 minutes ago. So yes, hi everyone. My name's Paolo Cuomo. I work in London. I've spent much of the sort of last 20 years asking the eternal question of how can new technology make a business difference rather than just being sort of interesting from a sort of tech and geeky point of view. That's gone through various different technologies over those decades. Quantum computing is obviously at the point now where it needs to be discussed from a business point of view. And so I'm delighted, in this conversation and all the other things we do at Quantum London to ask and try and answer the question of why should the average executive care about quantum computing. So delighted to have you all here. Apologies again for the technical issues at the start, and looking forward to a great half an hour of discussion.
Thank you. And finally, my name is Em, short for Emanuele. I spent a lot of my career in London. I now moved back to Italy, which is where I originally came from. And yeah, passionate by nature. I work in insurance in innovation capacity. So really looking, try to push a bit the boundaries of what's happening in the insurance space. And yeah, curious by nature. Together with Paul, we came together to form this community, really to try and understand the question on how quantum computing is going to impact our businesses. And this is for me a great way to connect with smart people and try to find more and answer that specific question on what are the business impacts on quantum. So here, really happy to be here tonight and have see so many of you. Hope, really looking forward for an exciting conversation. So with that, I think Andrea, we said we wanted to start with you with the first question on what is topological quantum computing. Just keep it simple for us.
Yes. My question was, okay, I thought I was in a, I understood it is mainly the quantum computing application to finance or to firms. And so, okay, I was here to learn about also the physical implementation. And so I had some question for topological computing, but in long story short, quantum computing is topological quantum computing is very it's one of the most promising, let's say, implementation of a quantum computer, since it is the main problem from quantum computing for quantum computers from the physical point of view, that of creation of a quantum computer, is that it is not stable against thermal excitation or noise, let's say. And topological quantum qubit, let's say, so the main element of the computer is the more stable one, let's say, thanks to this topology that is a kind of mathematical thing that lets the qubit to be more can stay for a longer time, can live for a longer time. And so, for instance, Microsoft believed in this kind of qubit, and so there is a research on that. But yes, there are some let's say some doubt about it, because it is the more stable and more, let's say, more stable one, but also the more difficult to create in laboratory. There are some doubt if it has been already created, some prototype, let's say. So for this reason, it's my doubt comes from this doubt, and so this is shortly the essence.
Thank you. So if I try to play it back to you, so it's a way to build logical qubits from physical qubits, and it's an experimental way of doing it, which is being kind of experimented as we speak.
Yes, in every quantum computer starts from a physical implementation of the qubit, that is the quantum bit, no? And there are other kind of other experimental platforms, it's experimental setup that works, that are already works and can be created, but they have a major problem in the let's say the coherence time, so the time, how much time and how much temperature is needed to keep the quantum property of the system, let's say. And so this is yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
So Paul, I think we had a couple of agenda points to cover tonight.
Yeah, what I'd love to do right now would be to ask Brian if he'll give us an update. And Brian, you know, it's been great having you on in the lead up to your book publication. It would be fantastic to hear some of the sort of follow-up questions you've received, and you know, just generally anything you've learned on the back of all the engagement you've had since you published.
Yeah, Paulo, I'd be more than happy to. So I'm actually thrilled to report that Quantum Boost has been sold in 12 countries around the world. It was an Amazon bestseller, which is interesting for a quantum computing book. So that's exciting. And certainly Quantum Boost is really based on what a lot of people here have talked about, the intersection of business and quantum computing. This is what intrigued me about Quantum London in the very first place. And certainly Quantum London has been referred to in the book. When I talk to C-suite people, when I talk to startups, lots of conversation about, initially maybe in the first year or so, what is quantum computing, and deciding whether you really need to understand quantum mechanics and quantum physics to leverage this new technology. Then people started talking about the hype versus the lack of hype. So, are we overbuilding quantum computing in terms of its capabilities? And the question really for them when I talk to them about it is, I can talk about the Gartner hype charts and, talk about the numbers of dollars of investment that's happening globally, whether nationally or privately. Or we can talk about the different groups that are out there and vendors who are out there saying, our product can deliver on optimization and simulation and so many other things. But the question really for most companies is starting versus not starting. So really starting to understand what quantum computing is, how they may be able to leverage it in the future and put it on their roadmap. And so that conversation seems to have a little bit more alignment with their business priorities rather than simply saying, here's the next shiny object, how quickly do I have to get up to speed? So that's been some interesting conversations that I've had with people. Similarly, they think about, well, what types of technology? Were there at least 10 significant types of quantum computing capability, whether it's or technologies like photonics or nitrogen vacancy diamonds or annealing or superconducting, and the list goes on. So how can a company make sense of all those things when you've got maybe multiple vendors, or they are relying on certain subject matter experts to tell them what the difference is and what capabilities exists? So really, it's kind of a learning opportunity since we don't have convergence of all those technologies yet today. And there certainly is no dominant technology. So, businesses, for example, are in a position where they're starting to learn, starting to understand what the possibilities of leveraging, but by no means should they be expecting that this is a mature technology that they can simply pull off the shelf. But even with that being said, it's so important that they actually start to understand it. And so, I'm starting to work on corporate innovation programs where we're taking AI and quantum computing as the basis of emerging technologies to incorporate into their roadmaps. We're starting to do YouTube videos and strategic consulting and, looking at a bunch more initiatives because these organizations, whether it's locally on my patch or, more globally, are looking for ways to synthesize all this information. Do you really have to understand the difference between, photons, atoms, electrons, and their spin rate, or do you really need to understand it at a much higher level along the stack? So I'll stop there, Paulo and Em. So some exciting things happening with the book, and certainly a lot of interesting progress going on from a business perspective.
Thank you, Brian. I do have a question, if I may. So the tone of the conversation, is it much more on the opportunities of quantum computing, or is it on the threats, or a combination of the two?
So it's always on the opportunities. So, and then I would say threats comes next, because people are looking to, how can any technology help me achieve my business goal? And why would I want to invest in quantum computing if I've already got traditional computing that does X? So unless you've got an NP hard problem that is so difficult that a traditional computer will take 20,000 years to solve, that they understand. Okay, now I'll start to think about investing in quantum computing. But if it's a step change, how much of a step change is it? 1x, 10x? What is it in terms of comparison to our computers today? And by the way, is there such a thing as a hybrid solver capability where you can actually bring those two things together and just have the quantum computing capability on the really hard stuff and continue to use your larger existing infrastructure? And then the second part really comes in where you start talking about the threats. How realistic is the threat that RSA will be completely circumvented, security will be completely circumvented within 5 to 8 years. So all of your customer data, all of your own internal data being completely exposed to anybody who has a quantum computer. Now that's a very sort of, dramatic way to put it, but people are starting to think, wow, is that a possibility? Well, I better start thinking about it because I know that my board is going to start asking questions about the level of security we have in place and the risk level we're at. And then you start talking a little bit more about technical details.
Thank you. I see Andrew Gold has joined us in the meantime. Andrew, I don't know, it's our tradition to introduce people in the community. I don't know if you want to say a couple of words about yourself. Sorry to get you a surprise. But
that's all right.
You're also lining up a couple of interesting panel discussions, so maybe you want to share those with us as well.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Apologies for being a bit late. I'm committed to family stuff. So my name's Andrew Gall. I've been involved in technology and business model change within corporates for about 20 years now. Worked in with businesses in the energy space, technology, AI sort of space. And as Em said, at the moment we're looking at quantum because we believe now that this now at the inflection point where corporates are investing more and scaling up. So operations like Merck and BASF and telecoms companies are investing more, and that transition into being applicable in corporates to do things that are very different. So just building on what Brian said there that I came in on. And we're running a quantum future program on the 13th of July, and we can share a code so that Quantum London people can join complimentary. We're going to have a panel of speakers from Merck, Oxford Quantum Circuits and Birmingham Quantum Hub. And then we're going to have breakout facilitated groups with the facilitators being the likes of Daniel Frack from M Ventures, Chris Irvin from KET, Richard Murray from Orca, Andy Stanford-Clark from IBM, Bob Cockshott from the KTN, and Rupesh. So we've got a whole bunch of people that are then going to facilitate some discussion groups about this sort of inflection point in quantum. So happy to pick up. People want to connect with me on LinkedIn or whatever, then happy to discuss that. Thanks, Em.
Thank you. You're most welcome. And also, we'll be publishing on our meetup group and on LinkedIn as an external event, and there will be also a small discount code to join the event. So keep an eye on that. And I think we have a question in the chat. I don't know if anyone wants to give it a go. Amrita, she's asking, can we state some examples in the business where the problem area can lie in the NP hard problem area? Brian, I see you come back on camera. Maybe you want to take that one.
Oh, I think you've got some good people online. I don't want to take it over. Certainly optimization, simulation, and cryptography fall into those sort of NP hard problem areas. Cryptography on the factorial capability of huge numbers. Optimization, whether it's portfolio optimization or route optimization, the traveling salesman problem. Those are just some high-level examples, but again, I don't want to take over your session.
No worries at all. Thank you for your answer. Is there anyone else who wants to complement on Brian's answer?
I think D-Wave quantum computers on the website, if you see, they have developed a solution for optimization for some company. I read it, I think 1 year before. You have to go onto the D-Wave website, and I think in the learning path somewhere it is there. You have to check it out there.
Thank you, Ankara. If you want to dig that link and post it in the chat for our community members, that would be great. Paolo, I will hand over back to you now so you can move us.
Thank you. Yes, Brian, fantastic to hear the update, and Andrew, thanks for telling us about your event. What I thought would be great to spend a few minutes on was just reflecting. Em and Anna, you spoke at an external event recently. It'd be great to get a summary of what you said, but what I think is always interesting in these conversations is also hearing the questions that you were asked. I think there's nothing more fascinating as we all get our heads around this evolving space than learning from other people's questions. So maybe, Anna, you can give us a short summary of the event, what it was, why you went on to it, and then maybe pick on one or two of the questions that you were asked there.
Yeah, sure. So we went on to Entangled Discussions, which is run by John Barnes. It's a great series where on every Tuesday of the month, he speaks to somebody in the quantum world. Usually each month is around a different theme. And at the end of the month, everybody he's spoken to individually, he gets onto a panel and has an entangled discussion with, which I think it's a great format. It worked really well. It was really nice because rather than just me and Em and John being there in sort of presenter mode and not seeing anyone else, it was on a Zoom call like this, where we were being asked questions, but then it was also very nice to see everyone and interact with everybody in the Zoom session, which was great. We saw some friendly faces from Quantum London, which was really nice to see people joining that and the merging of the two communities. So I've noticed a lot of people from Quantum London who we see at the Stammtisches are also going to entangled discussions, and it's brilliant when you see, you know, different communities overlapping and merging together. So me and Em, we were there really representing, I think, the non-quantum specialists in the quantum world who are trying to build a community. So I think a lot of the guests that John has, you know, incredibly accomplished, they in the quantum world and quantum experts, but we really wanted to bring the perspective of people who are interested in building a community and don't necessarily have to have that technical expertise, but are interested in understanding the business implications and can bring some business and domain knowledge with them. So in terms of questions, we had a range of questions since me and Em both are in insurance industry. We had some interesting questions about the impact of quantum computing in insurance, what applications we saw coming about. We had somebody asking us if quantum computing can be used to solve the student debt since we were insurance. Not quite sure how we were able to answer that one, but that was an interesting question. Then we got a range of questions generally about applications of quantum computing. And in fact, Doug brought up a very interesting point. I think I was mentioning that the applications can be spread into 3 different categories of optimization, simulation, and machine learning. And actually, Doug made me think very much. He kind of made the comment of, isn't the subset of problems in optimization and machine learning very similar? And why would you categorize them as 2 different things? So I'm interested to know if anybody else has an opinion on that, because to me, they're 2 different categories, but I'd be interested to know if anybody else wanted to weigh in on that at some point later on. But yeah, do you remember any other interesting questions that came up, Em?
No, nothing specific. I mean, yeah, I think we remarked the fact, you know, how important communities are in this stage of, you know, where the technology is kind of getting out of the labs into the wild of the business world. I think it's very important to have communities. And the other, I think we noticed there is, you know, there's a lot of cooperation at this stage, right? So it's still, yeah, there's competition in the market, but also there's a lot of willingness to, you know, to collaborate with each other. And the fact there is so many communities now starting to get traction, and there is also, you know, cross-pollination across communities. I think that's something great.
If I could just say something to Em's comments there. I attended a couple of different conferences since the last Stammtisch, and one of the topics that's came up quite frequently is how we can take a lot of the quite deep research and development in quantum and actually move it forward and have a commercial application for that. And I think that resonates with a point of we'll undoubtedly need people that understand that deep technology, but there's also a whole bunch of things that you need to do irrelevant to the fact that it's quantum. You know, if you turned up with a bag of magic pixie dust, you'd still need to work out how is it going to be monetized, what does it mean for contracts, what do the regulators need to say about that, how do you explain this to customers in terms of what it does, how does the full software stack look, you know, how do your development teams engage with it? That whole thing is independent of the fact that it's quantum computing at the end of the day. So a lot of organizations and industries are quite keen to understand how do we do more than just pure research and development on that? How do we actually make it a commercial endeavor? And there's different countries in the world that seem to be better at commercializing things than others. So, you know, there's another potential quantum arms race that would develop here. So just a bit of an input that maybe add some color to what you said.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Andrew,
Can I build on Rory's point there? Because I was having a discussion with Christopher Savvy, the CEO of Zapata, and you know, the thing he was raising there that he'd like to sort of discuss at this quantum program is really, we was talking about the data swamp, and the corporates at the moment and regulators really going to have to get their heads around how this is going to drive it. And as Rory's saying, this is not just about, this is about, you know, more data, AI, and quantum is going to give that a massive step up in that as well, and the impact that's going to have across data across borders and the output that comes across borders and that as well. So I think you're right, Rory, that you know, that point is coming up and is a key topic in that as well. So it's not just related to the technology, but how it's going to be applied.
It was actually, I was on a panel session with Chris, so that's actually where it came up. So
there you go. So I'm echoing echo chamber from him then. But yeah.
Yeah. So there was me and Chris and somebody, Stefan Werner from IBM in Germany. So it's the same thing that everybody's having the same conversations on. You know, getting beyond the hype of the R&D aspect, how do we actually apply this thing? How do we make it fit into organizations? If anybody's looked at IBM's Qiskit, you know, it's the sort of open source SDK for doing quantum at the moment. It doesn't really look like anything else that your development teams would be used to. It's not to say that it's bad, but if you're going to want adoption, then people probably adopt something that they're familiar with. So, you know, maybe Kate's interested in this sort of thing. How do you make it suitable for the users? How do you make them adopt that? You know, we can solve all the error correction problems and, you know, which technology is going to win. But if nobody wants to use it, nobody's happy to use it, then we won't be able to have any commercial application in it. So I think there's quite a lot of a broad spectrum now of topics that people are looking at rather than just the pure R&D aspect. Yeah, we still need to solve that, obviously, but yeah, interesting discussions going on.
Kate, do you want to comment on that? Sorry for calling you.
No, so I don't work with Qiskit, but I work with the researchers that do. And if anyone has any feedback for us, I'd love to take it to my team. I've done some sponsor user programs with Qiskit users from different universities, you know, all around the world. And those are users of the program, so they haven't commented on it not looking like other things they're using. So it's a really interesting perspective, and I'd love to hear more about it if you want to get some time together.
And just to mention as well, we run a quantum computing community as well, where we're actually following the IBM Qiskit textbook. So if you did ever want to come along, Kay, I'm sure people would be happy to give feedback. So we've been running through that for, I believe it's 12 weeks now. We've got going through the Qiskit textbook together. So yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great to join. I'd love to hear you guys chat about it. Thank you.
Fantastic. As we head towards the end of the hour, Anna, are there any particular dates to call out in terms of upcoming events? I know there's a lot planned, but I know they haven't necessarily all got dates fixed to them yet.
So coding community would be next Monday. That's the next date in the diary. And then towards the end of June, we're hopefully looking at an event that's not been confirmed yet. But we'll put those dates up as they come along.
Good. Yeah, I think. Oh, go on, Em, please.
No, then we have our regular Stammtisch pretty much every third Monday of the month. If it changes a bit, but it's roughly second half of the month we have our regular Stammtisch conversations.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, so the Stammtisch should already be listed on Meetup and LinkedIn, I think. In terms of those upcoming events, I think we've got another Quantum in Finance event in the planning. We have one looking at investment, so a discussion with some VCs and investors. And we have the one that Em mentioned earlier around, what do you want to do if you want to get a job in quantum? So a good range of different topics there. If any of you can think of something you feel would be particularly useful and relevant, do share that with us and we'll see. Similarly, if you know a particular speaker who's looking to talk to an audience, then that's great. I think it's going to be interesting seeing how things evolve as people slowly move away from being online back to being in the office. But certainly our plan as Quantum London is to sort of maintain a dual track strategy, should we call it, of continuing to do our Stammtisch and our online webinars and the coding community all virtually, but also for those who are based in London, we look forward to working out how we can have some physical events starting probably at the end of the summer, because they're always frankly easier from a networking point of view, even if there's no real difference in terms of the way that you can listen to speakers. So before we wrap up, any final questions, thoughts, ideas from anyone? No, in that case, thank you all so much. Thank you for bearing with our little bit of technology fun at the start. Great to see the new names and faces for those who haven't joined previously. Really hope you'll join us in a month when we have our July edition. And yes, best way to keep in touch is to follow us on the various meetup communities we're on, and also on the Quantum London LinkedIn page. We'll send a follow-up email in the next day or so after this event with the various links that have been mentioned, and look forward to staying in touch. Thank you, and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.